Moses. They have not found his bones. They don't know where he's buried. And Lucifer lost him. Says, where is he? Says, he was so awesome that we gave him this awesome burial. And of course, Lucifer's like, fuck you. And he never ever knew the truth. But let me tell you the truth. Okay? Let me back up. So Moses was in the wilderness, thrown off his throne and thrown to the streets like a homeless person. Moses was homeless for a long time because he had to civilize himself. Because he was civilized. He was almost a pharaoh, Ra, right? God on earth. But no, they had to work for him. So he went off, tested him and says, will you kill for your people? Boom, murdered, yes, good job, let's go. That was just, he says. He went off in the wilderness and he was not happy. Go ask a homeless person, are you happy? Do you like yourself? He'll say, no, I miss my family. I miss my luxury. I miss my bed. And then he went off and found a wife and pretended to be happy and had to go off and spread some seeds. But the mountain needed to speak. It spit, it spew, and it spoke. And he says, wife, what is that? He said, it's God Almighty in the mountain. He's like, oh. And of course, Moses wondered all his life. He says, why the fuck did you make me from here to there? And his wife says, husband. He says, whoever goes there, says, does not come back. He says, I'll make you a lunch. You go to the mountain. But he said, wife. He says, husband, you're not happy here. Every day you look at that mountain. Every day I see you walk there in your mind. Go. He says, I tell you, go. He says, thank you, wife. He says, don't tell the children, just go. And he walked to that mountain. And as he got closer to the top, he felt hope. Hope he did not have. No hope. When you're on the streets, where's your hope? And as he got there, he started to feel happiness. He's just like, because he wasn't going to come back. He didn't want to go back to that. And then he got to the mountain and he seen this bush, this burning spirit. And it's the bush. He says, it doesn't burn. He says, Moses, I waited for you. He says, you know me? He says, of course I know you. He says, I am you. Just take off your sandals. This is holy ground. He says, from one king to another. He says, respect I will give answer. And he sat down and he says, let me tell you who I am. I am who I am, he says. He says, I could never tell the people the truth because they would start to worship the sun and they burn out their eyeballs. They can like, look at how zealous I am. Look how much, yes, right? Because everyone wants to be better than each other. Because no one wants to be equal. Everyone always wants to rise above the other, don't they? Because he sojourned with God Almighty in the mountain. He told them about his life and he told them everything. And then he says, Moses, yes, you are the deliverer, that body. We're going to use it to do great things for your people. He says, I don't want to go back there. He goes, that's a shameful place for me. He says, we can either do it two ways. One, I could lead you there, and then eventually we'll just do a switch, or we just switch now. And you give me that body, and then you go to the good place they call heaven. It's just in the next building. He says, well, my wife. He says, his body's not going to die. They won't even know you're gone. I'm going to use your name. I'm not going to change names. Not for this one. I don't want people to know who I am, because what I do is what I do, and I do it for the people. Because you are the deliverer, Moses. You will deliver the people out of their bondage. You will deliver these gifts, and you will deliver them out of their hell. You will deliver the 12 tribes to the promised land that was promised to Abraham. 500 years late, I know, but nonetheless, it's a promise that I will fulfill. He says, your children will be like the stars. And what that means is those stars are spirits that utilize you humans. Those stars are the maximum amount of humans that can be utilized. That's why you're like the stars, your children. And they sojourned for a long time. The wife's like, my husband's gone. Long time he was there in the mountain. And finally he says, let's make a switch. They did. He says, but before we switch, Moses, I ask one thing. He says, yes, God Almighty, just give me your grandchildren. I'm going to train them on the streets to be kings, healers, and rulers. Because your grandchildren, you're going to hurt them. He says, no, they'll hurt your children. So the switch was made. Moses was gone to the good place, and now God Almighty was inside that body of Moses. God Almighty says, let me do it myself. This is too big a task for anyone else to do. So Moses went down, and he went to Egypt. Let's skip a lot and just go right to the point. He went to Egypt, and he went to the Pharaoh and says, let my people go. He said, of course not. But Moses, I missed you. He says, I did not miss you. He says, you want to have? He says, no, goodbye. And he left. And he went off to the people. And he went and told them, this, you are the God. He says, no, Pharaoh's God. He says, why? That's because he controls the weather. The man who controls the weather is God. It's the time of their day. And says, let me show you how he fools you to control the weather, people. So show me what he does that's so great that you call him God. He says, here. He says, this is every week. He tells us the weather's going to be like this. He says, yes. And then you speak it and you profess it over and over and over and over for him. He's fooling you. Say the opposite of that and you'll see the weather is going to be just not that. And they started to. They started to say the opposite of what this weather was. And all of a sudden the weather changed. And all of a sudden their crops started being affected, didn't it? It says, oh, there's going to be lots of rain. It's like, no, call for more sun. All of a sudden there's lots of sun. This is, we don't want sun. So the Pharaoh was starting to lose his power because the people started to realize, it's like, I guess he has no power in regards to weather. He says, no, because you have the power, people. And after a while, he started to integrate with his people even more. And he started to eat with them, be one with them, sojourn with them. And then he said, okay, say this. But he had to go ask the Pharaoh first that my people go. He says, no. He goes see the Pharaoh. And he'd harden his heart, and he'd harden his heart, and he'd harden his heart. He says, no. He says, what, you going to do this? And he would call his own demise. He says, so be it by your own lips, Pharaoh. And he'd leave and go to the people. And he says, do this, say this. And he'd hand out the scroll and he says, go to the people, get them to say this. And they started to. And you, son. And because of that, they controlled everything. He says, call for grasshoppers. Call for this. Call for storms. Destroy their farms. Destroy their crops. And they did. They just started destroying Egypt. Just ripping it apart like we're going to do to the Vatican, the ones who raped your children, their 12 tribes. Same ones. We will not destroy Canada. That's our home. They respected us. We respect them right back. Tit for tat. But Moses started to show them who was God. He says, we are as one. When you work as one and you think as one, you are gods. And they asked him, who are you? He says, a teacher. No one else. He says, I'm here to teach you who you are, what you are, and where we need to go. He says, I'm the deliverer. I'm the deliver you from your bondage, it seems. So finally, I want to explain one thing, though, why he said eat those bitter herbs. He says, here, kill your animals, kill the cows, right? Because he wanted to get rid of that angry spirit. And that was the parasite. So he says, I have to eat your meat and then eat these bitter herbs. And what it did, it was a setup for those parasites. Because on the way out, you do not want these people yelling, we should go back, we should go back. He says, no, they were too busy sick because those parasites were killing themselves inside that body, eating that herb. So for 3 days, those people were sick, the ones who would speak out loud, thinking that they're leaders because they can yell the loudest. No, the one who listens to God is the leader. The grandmother is the authority, and you'll see that it's going to be the one in your community. But for 3 days, they could not speak, and so they were led out right into the wilderness. For one reason, to separate the faithless from the faith. And the ones who are faithless are the ones who want to move back. And he says, separate yourself from them. And he says, earth, swallowed them up. Gone. And the people were like, amazed, weren't they? And they started to believe him more. Because he never did show his might. Not yet. He showed the people what they could do as one. But then he had to show himself. And as they went further to the mountain, it was only there to write the laws in their heart. That's it. But to separate them. And he separated them accordingly, not by color. Because when they went to Egypt, Joseph went there and sojourned with other bloods, and the bloods were mixed. And that's the reason why the Bible was created, because of this one reason. But I'm ahead of myself. So these mixed bloods was what they wanted, though. Because those gifts, when you have mixed bloods, holy motherfucking God, you have monsters. When you mix, say, First Nations and non-First Nations, well, these bloods, it's like, wow. In the Bible, it says, be fruitful and multiply, so those gifts can be amazing. And then you have one husband. It's just like, how the hell are you supposed to be multiply and fruitful if you only have one husband? A woman is supposed to have about 5, 10. She has a voracious appetite, doesn't she? You're just like, woman, I cannot. It's like, no, she needs 5 husbands to supply that, right? What's wrong with that? It's love.